malgré le fait que le reste de cette présentation se déroulera en anglais, on vous encourage fortement à nous poser des questions en français à la fin. Maintenant, parlons peu et parlons bien. TC Media has grown tremendously in the last 36 years. A high growth it owes partially to the fact that it knows its consumers in and out. It has been keeping a pulse this whole time and can use this pulse. In fact, has passed it on to Elle. Elle has a fantastic opportunity right now using all the platforms that TC Media offers and has been given the golden ticket of opportunity as a test phase for the next integrated marketing campaign of TC Media. So what's on the agenda today? What's on the menu? I'm going to give you a couple of distilled relevant factors that affect TC Media in their present-day decision making. I'm also going to give you some decision criteria, what you should pay attention to. Charlotte's going to take it away with a fine suggestion that's going to fit the frame of the concise opportunity we'll have drawn. Adam will take it away with a financial setup, and I will at last show you how all this will implement and integrate in a timely fashion. So what's going on right now? What's the situation? From our understanding, it's clear. Again, Elle has a golden ticket. We have all the tools in the shed. Innovation is what has to be used from now. Creativity is what we have to bring to the market. Now, there's a need for intuitive and personalized communication. There's this trend going on whereby a few touches this, a few touches that. I can get anywhere I want, anytime. The pressure to use this new media is therefore urgent. Now, we know that Elle has a sophisticated, trendy, and engaged consumer base. So we need to play on that and this incredible availability of media. We've distilled all of this and come to the following problem. We need to frame this opportunity in such a way. How can TC Media integrate the most marketing platforms possible in the next Elle Quebec campaign? Now we've put our brains together and come up with this opportunity. Through the use of teasers, personalized geolocalization, and content customization, Elle Quebec will increase consumer touch points, generate valuable data, which is essential in 2013, and optimize the cross-platform consumer experience. That is, at the end of the day, the goal. All of these efforts will integrate together and lead to increased in-store sales and traffic to all of these platforms, resulting eventually in an 84% return on investment over specifically 2 years. Who is our target profile? What does she look like? What does she do? How does she behave? She is female. She is 35 to 54 years old. She wakes up in the morning. She knows her agenda. She's been through the routine so many times. She's going to go for sushi at 12. She is sophisticated. She has an average income, but she knows what she wants. She's not going to spend any time. Very quick decisions. Very efficient, though. She's aware of the fast pace of fashion. This dress, that dress, I know. She's busy, independent as well. How are we going to decide on all of this in the end? Brand engagement is really the central term here. This is what we want ultimately. Personalization is a must, as is the media integration. This is what is the requirement to get to this goal. The diversity of platforms used, well, that's just what we're going to do. Now, after all this, and a good portrait of the landscape, let's go to the recommendation.
So for our recommendation, we've come up with a sort of house because we believe that's the best way to represent it. So the bottom of the house is the foundation. It's what you're already using. So the magazine in itself, your website, the application, the social media, and the emails. That's the foundation. Now our 3 recommendations are going to build up on this foundation. So we have the personalized geolocalization, the teasers, and the customized content and social portraits. Those are our 3 recommendations. And together, they will bring this sort of new message that you want to send your readers, which is your Elle, our services, one touch away. This emphasizes your Elle, the customization of the product, our services, the multiple platforms that you will use to get the product to your consumer, one touch away, how seamlessly you will manage to integrate it all into one easy-to-use product service. So the first part of the recommendation is the personalized geolocalization. So what we want to do through this is use the smartphone geolocalization possibilities to enrich the consumer experience. So what will happen is that when you go through the Elle magazine on your smartphone, you have an option to sort of like some outfits, a dress, this makeup, even a movie. Oh, this looks really interesting. You select it. And then after, when you're geolocalized next to the store or the cinema or the place you like, you'll get a notification telling you, hey, here's the store where you can get the product you like and that we featured in Elle. Through this, we'll have to have partnership with stores, obviously, because you need to know where they are located, and it goes further than this. So an example is you're walking down the street, St. Catherine, and you pass in front of Zara, and this pops up on your iPhone. Elle Quebec, black dress Rebecca, which was the nicest dress that you were going to wear on Saturday. You have the price, you have the address of the store, well, you're supposed to be around it, but so you're sure to go. A map, in case it's really hard to find. Picture of the dress to remind you which one it was, and the option to remind you next time you're around this particular Zara, because right now you're just too busy, you have a meeting, you gotta run. Now, in store, what we want to do, and through this partnership, is have tags on the Elle featured items that consumers may have selected earlier. So it will look a little bit like this, design, obviously, so that when you go into the store, you don't have to look for the Rebecca dress. It's already there. You have the name tags. There are, 10 items max, and you know what to look for. So in terms of matching the consumer experience, the fact that they're really busy, you're on top of this. So through this, we want to have a possibility to reserve items to ensure availability, so that will be a little bit down the road. So we will leverage the fast fashion concept. Right now, you may go to Zara one day, you see this great outfit, but you don't have time to buy it. You come back the next week and it's gone. We don't want to do this. We want the consumers to have the opportunity to reserve the items. So they see it on the Elle, and instead of just liking it, they reserve it. Now, they'll have 3 days to pick it up, or a fee, because obviously you can't reserve items and then unreserve them, which will have to be determined with Zara. Again, Zara is an example, but with all the firms. And they'll just give the code in exchange for the item. So for them, they've reserved it. They just go to the store, they give the code, get it back. It's super quick. They had the item they wanted, and they make sure they didn't miss this opportunity for this particular item. So it's definitely an enriched consumer experience, and there's no time loss.
Now, furthering on this point, we don't want to neglect the fact that Elle magazine is our prime concern at this moment. So we've integrated with something we call teasers. I'd like to take you through that right now. With teasers, we're basically leveraging the online and smartphone applications that we just presented to you. And we're also going to increase readership through the tangible magazines. What these are is, they're shortened articles. Picture a Twitter post of no more than 140 characters. In this case, for the article's purpose, we would have approximately 500 characters. And they would be attention-grabbing headlines, so as to ensure that consumers would potentially want to purchase the Elle magazine later on and further read the rest of the article. Now, these themes to foster what we want to know more about the consumer, and this will help us data mine later on. Now, let's give you an empirical example. Pretend that you are on the go, Heathrow, London Airport, sandwich in one hand and your mobile phone in the other hand, and you see this teaser for Michelle Obama's fight on obesity. Now, you don't have the time to pursue the rest of the article because you're just so busy at the time. But Elle will remind you that there is a teaser in its magazine for which you can purchase, and we've assumed $2 for this magazine, and that you can continue reading later on. So this basically allows the consumers to realize that, yes, you might not have time to read it now, but Elle is facilitating this so that you will have time to read it later. On-the-go users are our target for this. They are catered to through reduced text length. They can read it and get the gist of the article right off the bat. And also, as I mentioned, it elicits a purchase intention so as to make sure that these consumers will purchase the magazine later on.
Now that we've seen the first two parts of our recommendation, we're going to the third one. So the third one is bringing customization to what you get and what the readers get. So basically, they have the option to select their interest, so Puritan, society, or sub-interest, so even more specific if they don't want to be bombarded with info that they don't really care about, among all of their themes. Now once they selected that, they'll select when they want to learn about them. So Sunday 4 p.m., Monday 9 p.m. So you know what, on Sunday 7 p.m., right before starting my week, I want to know all the fashion tips of this week. Wednesday morning, I want to know everything new about society, all the news. So they will self-segment themselves into what they want and what they like. And based on this, the application will be also will enable the order of it to appear as they want it. So my interests are the first articles that I will see, and then as I go lower, if I have time, I have the things that don't necessarily interest me, but I may be curious and want to have a look at them anyway. So we customize what they get, when they get it, and in which order they get it. Now through this, you'll be able to draw very specific social portraits because you will get very specific information about what each user wants, when they want it, how they want it. So this will improve your advertising attractiveness because you will have very valuable data. For example, if I'm interested in beauty tips Wednesday at 4 p.m., L'Oreal, if they want to buy advertisement, they will know that they want to put it Wednesday at 4 p.m. because that's the time I want to hear about beauty tips. So through this, we have a sort of win-win situation. On the one side, the advertisers are really gaining value through this because they know they're targeting the very specific person they want their advertisement to go to. At the same time, as a reader, I'm satisfied because I don't get advertisements that do not concern me. They concern me specifically, and they concern me when I want to hear about those products. Now we have the last part of the recommendation, which is just to talk about the foundation, because we said again that our recommendation was going to be based on the foundation, which is what you're currently doing. And we're going to use them for promotion, because we may have new features, but if no one knows about them, there's just no point. So we're going to promote those new features through the existing platforms, the magazines, the website, the social media. So we thought a way to include them, instead of trying to convince people and advertising, oh, check out our new app, which is a bit annoying sometimes, we will include it in articles, for example. So you read facts about, an article about innovations on smartphone application and how they're used, and in this article you'll say, by the way, Elle is doing this now. So as a reader, instead of feeling like, oh, they're trying to convince me to do something, you're thinking more of it as a fact, and therefore you're more inclined to use it later on. We'll of course use the email notification because you do benefit from a huge number of email addresses, as well as the newsletter.
So now that we've looked at the qualitative section for our plan for El Quebec, we need to justify it. And this calls for some sort of financial metrics to allow us to do so. So using a step-down analysis, we've done the following segmentation. We've said to ourselves, well, currently we have 1.1 million registered emails in our database. Now we can use this to leverage our plan by saying to ourselves, well, assuming that 50% of these email users were to download the application, how many of them would then end up purchasing an Elle magazine? And we've come up with a 10% purchase intention from this metric. So that results in approximately 110,000 print ad purchasers. These are new print ad purchasers that we did not have before, which results in approximately $220,000 in added revenues based on the purchase of these magazines. So what we've done with this is, again, we've assumed that there's a $2 cost to purchasing this magazine. And we've said to ourselves that using this breakdown, we would be able to attract approximately this many people. We believe that this is relatively conservative, seeing as how we have such a huge network. And this would be relatively easy for us to implement. Now, furthering on this point, we emphasize going mobile. we told you that we really want to make sure that we have an extended mobile usage. So with 797,000 print readers, these guys will also be exposed to our mobile platform. And with the assumption that only 20% of these, and factoring in our step down before, we would have 51,000 increase in web presence, which results in new users and new emails. And based on these metrics, we've obtained the following increase in percentage change of 4.6%. Now this is for web users and emails. But what are the costs? Well, we can justify this with the following. Our web design, we've allocated approximately $100,000. Then this would take into account the lead time to actually develop these applications, test run, and in the market. And for our collaboration with Zara, which is our preliminary collaboration, we've allocated $30,000 for these tasks. And with a return on investment of 84.6%, we've taken into account the following. Our added revenues will not only strengthen our business from an organizational perspective, it will also encourage our attractiveness for advertising. The advertiser will see it as an opportune moment for them to place their ads in L because of the increase in readership. Thus, our return on investment becomes justified. But we have to take into account there are also intangibles related to these financials. We have to say to ourselves that there's a possibility of an increased brand awareness, which we did not foresee before. The intent to purchase might be higher than we considered. And even the word of mouth, whether it be positive or negative, we would be able to leverage this as well. And furthering on this, going back to our plan, an increase in the enriched consumer experience. And we believe that this is vital for our success.
Thanks for bringing that. Now you've asked creativity, and there's an adaptability. But at this point, you're wondering, how is this all going to fit in exactly? It's nice to have creativity, but is it clear how it's all going to fit? Now, what about immediate action? What are we going to do on Monday morning? That's the most essential question, right? So we're going to do those 7 a.m. early phone calls, contact eventual partners, Zara or someone else. Are we in a deal right now? We're going to develop multi-platform metrics. Essential to measure the track over cross-platform. So bounce rate, are you spending more than 3 seconds on this site or not? Traffic, click-through rate. We want multi-platform metrics. Keyword. We're going to use our existing platforms, our foundation. I really want you to remember the house to promote new features, raise them from the top. And we're going to start experiential testing with the teasers. Are they going to work? Basically, what we're doing in this phase, in these 6 months, is setting ourselves up for an immediate success after. Now this block chart should give you an idea of what happens after that. So the launch after 6 months, around September, we're going to directly start using the metrics. Crucial, again, we're in the age of big data, we need to use that big data. The new features launch will be announced for about 2 months prior. Of course, wide email, wide scale email, we are doing this now. Promotion of new features, again, will follow for the 4 months. We need a very heavy up approach in this particular category. The teasers, because we'll have done some experiential testing, we'll have a bit of experience with that. So we'll have a bit of a flair for the consumer. Except, we're still going to keep a pulsing strategy with that because you can't annoy the consumer too much. Again, these are people that know what they want. Finally, the launch of the reservation feature is something we plan for the long term. There are some long-term plans, reservation amongst them. We want to see how this flies about a year from now, and then decide. This will be a sort of contingency plan. Now again, takeaways. Remember the house. Remember the model. URL, our services, one touch away. We've given you a system, not a cross-platform, a system that integrates all of what we've suggested. Personalized geolocalization, teasers, customized content and social portraits, which we can reuse, which extends the life cycle, which enrich of the content. And again, I can't stress this enough, because we are, these people, enriches the consumer experience. With this, we're finished, and I'd like to open the floor to questions.
pouvez poser des questions.
Moi, j'ai pas de questions, mais j'ai apprécié, si je peux donner un peu de feedback, je pense que vous avez eu une bonne compréhension de l'écosystème de la marque à travers ces plateformes. Puis vous avez aussi, à travers votre présentation, donné beaucoup d'opportunités pour les annonceurs de monétiser aussi le contenu. Alors, ça, c'est apprécié. Puis, vous êtes très, très centré sur l'expérience utilisateur. Ça, c'est sûr que ça va favoriser l'engagement. Donc, sur ça, c'est une belle présentation.
Merci beaucoup.
Moi, j'avais une question. Vos deux premiers piliers, Personalized Geolocalization et Teasers, ça se passe beaucoup sur le mobile. Comment vous voyez l'expérience desktop? Parce qu'on a quand même la majorité de notre public qui est sur le desktop encore. C'est sûr qu'il y a un shift vers le mobile. Mais comment on entretient la relation puis on engage ces gens-là sur le site web?
Alors, effectivement, avec la géolocalisation, ça va être un peu plus compliqué à travers le desktop, puisque les gens ne vont pas se balader avec leur laptop ouvert et donc avec le Wi-Fi connecté. Néanmoins, il y a quand même la possibilité des tablettes qui, ne l'oublions pas, commencent à prendre la place. Par contre, pour les teasers, ça marche très très bien, puisqu'au final, quand ils sont un peu en no-go, qu'ils voient juste ça rapidement, ils sont au boulot, ils voient l'article au début, ah ok, ah c'est génial, Michelle Obama, publicité. Ils ferment, ils doivent y aller et après ils auront le temps plus tard de le regarder plus en détail. De toute façon, l'article ne sera disponible qu'en vrai détail, donc dans sa forme entière, dans le magazine. Donc c'est aussi un but pour eux d'aller acheter le magazine finalement et de pouvoir le lire vraiment en détail. Donc ça marche aussi avec le reste.
Donc, on convertit l'utilisateur web vers l'achat du magazine autant qu'à partir du mobile et la tablette. OK. C'est bien, merci.
Une question, moi, c'est juste l'utilisation des médias sociaux. Vous n'avez pas élaboré là-dessus, mais avez-vous eu la chance d'en discuter pendant les délibérations? C'est pas une question piège. Je me demandais déjà si vous aviez eu la chance de comment utiliser, par exemple, la page Facebook de Québec.
Donc, comme on a dit, on pensait utiliser les médias, les services que vous avez actuellement plutôt comme fondation. Donc, clairement, on va l'utiliser dans la promotion. On va en parler sur Facebook, surtout que les gens qui, en théorie, utilisent les réseaux sociaux seront aussi ceux qui vont utiliser le smartphone là. Après, dans le plan en soi, on ne l'a pas pris en compte parce que c'est plus difficile de mesurer, on va dire, tous ces changements. Et même si ça aide effectivement à rendre l'expérience du consommateur plus agréable, c'est pas phare. Enfin, on ne trouve pas que ce soit
l'utilisation pour pousser une promotion.
Exactement. Surtout vu que les lecteurs sont plutôt entre 34 et 55 ans. On pensait que social media c'était plutôt pour les jeunes, 20 ans, 25 ans. Pour les plus jeunes.